There's a woman who hasn't driven a car in 8 years. She's successful, intelligent, put together. But if you ask her to get behind the wheel, her hands start shaking. Her throat closes. She'll make an excuse, change the subject, walk away. And here's what nobody tells you about avoidance. Every time she runs from that steering wheel, she's not protecting herself. She's building the prison walls higher. This is Sarah's story. And if you've ever avoided something that scared you, it might be yours too. Sarah wakes up at 6:30 every morning. Same time, same routine, same coffee mug. She works from home as a graphic designer. Her apartment is beautiful, minimalist, controlled. Everything has its place. Everything is predictable. She tells people she loves the flexibility of remote work. The truth? She engineered her entire life to avoid situations she can't control. No commute means no cars. No office means no unexpected conversations. No spontaneity means no triggers. She thinks she's winning. She thinks she's moved on. But look closer. Watch what happens when a red car drives past her window. See how she flinches? That's not someone who's moved on. That's someone who's still there, still in that moment, still bleeding on the side of the road 8 years ago. Her phone rings. It's her sister Emma. Sarah almost doesn't answer because phone calls are unpredictable and unpredictable means unsafe. But she picks up. Emma is getting married. She wants Sarah to be her maid of honor. The wedding is in Boston, 3 hours away. Sarah's stomach drops. Her mind immediately starts calculating. Can I take a train? How many transfers? What if the train breaks down? What if I need to get home quickly? She hears herself saying congratulations, but her brain is screaming danger, danger, danger. Emma asks if she's okay. Sarah lies. She says she's just emotional. Happy tears. Emma believes her because people always believe the lies we tell with smiles. That night Sarah can't sleep. She lies in bed staring at the ceiling, and for the first time in months, she lets herself remember. The actual memory, not the blurred version she's created. It was raining. She was 24, driving home from a friend's birthday party. Not drunk, just tired. The roads were slick. She remembers the headlights. The truck that ran the red light. The sound of metal crushing. Glass exploding. Her head hitting something. The smell of gasoline and copper. Blood. Her blood. Then sirens. Then hospital lights. Then physical therapy. Then panic attacks every time she saw a car. Then the slow, careful construction of a life where she'd never have to face that fear again. But here's what nobody told Sarah about avoidance. Here's what they don't teach you when you're lying in that hospital bed making promises to yourself that you'll never be that vulnerable again. Every time you avoid something that scares you, your brain learns something. It learns that the fear was justified. It learns that the danger was real. And it learns that avoiding the danger kept you safe. So next time the fear gets bigger, the avoidance gets easier. And slowly, without realizing it, your world gets smaller and smaller until you're living in a cage you built yourself, and you've convinced yourself it's freedom. Sarah spends the next week trying to figure out how to get to Boston without getting in a car. She researches train schedules, bus routes. She even considers asking Emma to move the wedding, but she knows how that sounds. She tells herself she's being practical, planning ahead, being responsible. She doesn't use the word avoidance. She doesn't call it what it is. Because if she admits she's avoiding, she has to admit she's afraid. And if she admits she's afraid, she has to admit she never actually dealt with what happened. She just ran from it. And she's been running ever since. The day before the wedding, Sarah boards the train. She's chosen a seat by the window, aisle side, 3 rows from the exit. Everything calculated. Everything controlled. She has her headphones, her anxiety medication just in case, and a plan for every possible scenario. The train starts moving and she feels okay. She's done it. She's facing her fear. Except she's not, is she? She's just found another way to avoid the real trigger. The train isn't a car. She's not driving. She's not in control. She tells herself this counts as progress. But deep down she knows the truth. 40 minutes into the journey, the train stops. Mechanical failure. Everyone needs to disembark and take a bus the rest of the way. Sarah's heart starts racing. Not the bus. Anything but the bus. Buses have windows on both sides. Buses share the road with cars. Buses can crash. She stands on the platform while other passengers calmly board the replacement bus. Her hands are shaking. Sweat drips down her back despite the cold. An elderly woman asks if she's all right. Sarah nods, but she's not all right. She's 8 years in the past, trapped in twisted metal, unable to breathe. She doesn't get on the bus. She watches it pull away. She calls Emma and hears her own voice, distant and mechanical, saying she's sick. Food poisoning. So sorry. Can't make it. Emma is quiet for a long moment. Then she says something that breaks through Sarah's defenses like a hammer through glass. She says, "You know what breaks my heart? It's not that you're missing my wedding. It's that you're missing your own life. And you don't even see it anymore." Sarah sits on that train platform for an hour after hanging up. She sits there while other trains come and go. She sits there while passengers rush past her to catch connections and start journeys and live their lives. And for the first time in 8 years, she asks herself the question she's been avoiding more carefully than any car or road or trigger. What am I doing? Not what happened to me. Not how do I stay safe. But what am I actually doing to my life by running from everything that scares me? If you've ever avoided something, hit that like button right now. Because what I'm about to tell you changes everything. The next morning, Sarah does something she hasn't done in 8 years. She calls a therapist. Not the kind she saw right after the accident who gave her breathing exercises and told her time heals all wounds. A trauma specialist. Someone who understands that avoidance isn't protection, it's preservation. Preservation of the trauma. She sits in the waiting room and almost leaves 3 times. But she stays. And when Dr. Martinez asks her why she's there, Sarah tells the truth. She says, "I survived a car accident 8 years ago. But I think I'm still dying from it." Dr. Martinez doesn't give her platitudes. She doesn't say everything happens for a reason or you're so strong for getting through it. Instead, she explains something that Sarah has never heard before. She explains that the human brain is a learning machine. And when something traumatic happens, the brain's #1 priority is making sure it never happens again. So it creates associations. Car equals danger. Driving equals death. Roads equal trauma. And then it creates a solution. Avoid the trigger, avoid the pain. Except here's the problem. Every time you avoid the trigger, you're teaching your brain that the trigger really is dangerous. You're confirming the fear. You're making it stronger. Sarah sits there absorbing this. So you're saying that by avoiding cars, I've been making myself more afraid of them? Dr. Martinez nods. Your brain thinks it's protecting you. But really it's trapping you. Every avoidance is another brick in the wall between you and your life. Sarah feels something crack open inside her chest. It's not relief. It's grief. Grief for 8 years of running. Grief for all the places she didn't go, the experiences she didn't have, the version of herself she left bleeding on that highway. Dr. Martinez explains the science. When you avoid something, your amygdala, the fear center of your brain, sends out an alarm. Danger. Threat. Run. And when you successfully avoid the thing, your brain floods with relief. Temporary safety. The problem is, that relief teaches your brain that running was the right choice. That the danger was real. So next time the alarm gets louder. The fear gets bigger. And the avoidance becomes more and more necessary just to function. It's called negative reinforcement. And it's why people who start by avoiding cars end up avoiding leaving their house entirely. But here's where it gets interesting. Here's where the hope comes in. Dr. Martinez tells Sarah about exposure therapy. Not the kind where they throw you in the deep end and hope you swim. Gradual, controlled, systematic exposure. The idea is simple but terrifying. You have to face the trigger. You have to teach your brain that the thing you're afraid of won't kill you. That you can survive it. That the fear is a liar. Sarah's first thought is absolutely not. Her second thought is, what's the alternative? Keep living like this? Keep building the walls higher until there's no world left outside them? They start small. Impossibly small. Sarah's first homework assignment is to watch videos of cars driving. That's it. Just watch them on her laptop from the safety of her couch. It sounds ridiculous. Feels patronizing. But when she actually tries it, when she pulls up a video of traffic on a highway, her heart rate spikes. Her palms sweat. Her throat tightens. This is just a video. This is just pixels on a screen. And still, her body is screaming run. She watches for 30 seconds before closing the laptop. But she did it. She faced the trigger for 30 seconds. And she survived. Over the next week, she watches those videos every day. Cars driving, cars parking, cars on highways, cars in rain. Each time the fear is there. But each time it gets a tiny bit smaller. Her brain is learning something new. It's learning that watching cars doesn't lead to pain. That the trigger and the trauma are not the same thing. Dr. Martinez explains this is called habituation. Your nervous system can't stay in high alert forever. If you stay with the trigger long enough, the fear eventually decreases. Not because the trigger becomes safe, but because your brain realizes you're not actually in danger. Next comes sitting in a parked car. Dr. Martinez goes with her. They walk to a parking lot and Sarah stands in front of a small sedan, keys in hand. This is different from the videos. This is real metal, real glass, real danger. Her body knows the difference. She's shaking so hard she drops the keys twice. Dr. Martinez doesn't rush her. She says, "The fear is information, not instruction. It's telling you your brain remembers what happened. But it doesn't get to decide what you do next." Sarah opens the door. She sits in the driver's seat. And she doesn't die. She doesn't crash. She doesn't relive the trauma. She just sits there, breathing, crying, shaking. But alive. Present. Here. They sit in that car for 20 minutes. At first, every muscle in Sarah's body is tensed, ready to run. But slowly, minute by minute, her nervous system starts to calm. Her breathing slows. Her hands stop shaking quite as much. This is the magic of exposure. This is what avoidance stole from her for 8 years. The opportunity for her brain to learn that she's safe. That the past is not the present. That triggers are not threats. When they finally get out of the car, Sarah feels exhausted. But she also feels something she hasn't felt in years. She feels proud. The work continues. Each week a new step. Sitting in a car while someone else drives. Sitting in a car in motion, going slowly around an empty parking lot. Then residential streets. Then busier roads. Each step is terrifying. Each step brings flashbacks, panic, the overwhelming urge to stop and go back to safety. But each step also brings proof. Proof that she can do hard things. Proof that fear is not fate. Proof that she's stronger than the trauma that tried to define her. Dr. Martinez reminds her constantly, "You're not erasing what happened. You're changing your relationship to it. You're taking back your power." Comment below the biggest thing you've been avoiding. Let's talk about it. 4 months into therapy, Sarah does something that would have been impossible a year ago. She gets behind the wheel. Not with Dr. Martinez. Not with anyone. Just her in the car and the road. Her hands grip the steering wheel so tight her knuckles turn white. She adjusts the mirrors, puts on her seatbelt, starts the engine. The sound of the engine makes her want to vomit. Every instinct screams at her to stop. This is dangerous. This is where it went wrong before. This is how you got hurt. But she knows now that those voices are echoes. They're not predicting the future. They're haunting her with the past. She drives to the end of her street. 5 miles per hour, trembling, tears streaming down her face. She's not trying to prove anything. She's not trying to be brave. She's just trying to show her brain that driving a car doesn't equal dying in a car. That she can hold both truths at once. Something terrible happened and she's safe right now. She makes it to the stop sign and parks. She sits there crying for 10 minutes. But they're different tears than the ones she's cried before. These aren't tears of helplessness. These are tears of reclamation. Over the next weeks, she drives a little further each time. Around the block. To the grocery store. To her sister's house. Each trip is hard. Each trip brings anxiety. But each trip also brings evidence. Evidence that she can handle more than she thought. That her world doesn't have to be small. That the cage she built can be dismantled, bar by bar, choice by choice, mile by mile. Her sister asks how she's doing it. Sarah says, "I'm not doing it. I'm just not avoiding it anymore." Turns out there's a difference. 6 months after that phone call on the train platform, Sarah drives to Boston. 3 hours on the highway. Past the exit where the accident happened. Past the hospital where they took her. Past all the landmarks of her trauma. She doesn't do it easily. She doesn't do it without fear. She pulls over twice to cry and breathe and remind herself why she's doing this. But she does it. She drives all the way to Emma's house, parks the car, and walks up to the door on legs that still shake but hold her weight nonetheless. Emma opens the door and sees Sarah standing there, car keys in hand, and she doesn't say anything. She just hugs her. And Sarah realizes that this moment, this reunion, wouldn't be possible if she'd kept running. Every beautiful thing in life lives on the other side of the things we're most afraid of. Every connection, every experience, every version of ourselves we're meant to become exists in the territory we've marked as too dangerous to enter. Avoidance promises safety. But it delivers isolation. It delivers stagnation. It delivers a life half-lived. Here's what Sarah learned that she wants you to know. Triggers are not the enemy. Trauma is real, pain is valid, and fear makes sense. But triggers are just reminders. They're echoes of something that already happened. And when you avoid them, you're not avoiding the past. You're sacrificing the future. Every time you run from a trigger, you're telling yourself that you're not strong enough to handle it. That the world is too dangerous. That you're still that person bleeding on the side of the road, helpless and broken. But you're not. You survived. And survival means you're capable of more than just hiding. The research backs this up. Study after study shows that avoidance is the single biggest predictor of chronic PTSD. Not the severity of the trauma. Not how much therapy you get, but how much you avoid the reminders. Because avoidance prevents processing. It keeps the trauma fresh. It keeps you in a state of constant threat, constantly vigilant, constantly one trigger away from falling apart. But exposure, gradual and supported, allows your brain to update its threat assessment. To learn that then was then and now is now. To integrate the trauma into your story without letting it become your whole story. Sarah isn't cured. She still has hard days. She still feels anxiety when she drives. But the difference is this: the anxiety doesn't control her anymore. She doesn't build her life around avoiding it. She feels it, acknowledges it, and does the thing anyway. Because she knows now that courage isn't the absence of fear. Courage is fear plus action. It's saying yes, I'm scared, and no, I'm not letting that be the final word. It's understanding that the only way out is through. That you can't heal what you won't feel. That freedom lives on the other side of the very thing you've been running from. Think about your life right now. What are you avoiding? Maybe it's not cars. Maybe it's conversations, relationships, opportunities, places, people, feelings. Maybe you've convinced yourself that you're just being careful, setting boundaries, protecting yourself. And maybe some of that is true. But ask yourself honestly, is this protection or is this prison? Is this boundary or is this cage? Are you avoiding danger or are you avoiding life? Because here's the brutal truth that Sarah had to face. If you're not careful, you can spend your whole life running from ghosts. You can avoid every trigger and still never feel safe. Because the problem isn't the triggers. The problem is the belief that you can't handle them. Your brain is not your enemy. Your fear is not a flaw. Your trauma is not your fault. But your healing is your responsibility. And healing doesn't mean forgetting what happened. It doesn't mean pretending you're not scared. It means refusing to let the worst thing that ever happened to you become the only thing that ever happens to you. It means taking back, inch by inch, the territory that trauma stole. It means teaching your brain that you're safe not by avoiding the world, but by moving through it and surviving every single time. If you're sitting there right now thinking about the thing you've been avoiding, listen to me. You don't have to face it today. You don't have to be ready. You don't have to do it alone. But you do have to stop pretending that avoidance is working. You have to stop calling your cage freedom. You have to stop believing the lie that running from triggers is the same as healing from trauma. Because it's not. Running is maintenance. Facing is healing. Running keeps you stuck. Facing sets you free. Sarah ended up making it to Emma's wedding. She stood up there as maid of honor, in front of 200 people, and gave a speech about love and courage and showing up for the people who matter. But the real speech, the one she gave to herself on that 3-hour drive, was about something else. It was about the realization that she'd spent 8 years punishing herself for something that wasn't her fault. That she'd been so focused on preventing another accident that she'd caused a different kind of crash. A slow-motion collision between who she was and who she could have been. And that the only way to survive that crash was to stop running from it. So here's my question for you. What trigger have you been avoiding? What part of your life have you made smaller because you're afraid of feeling something? What experience have you convinced yourself you don't want when really you're just terrified of what it might bring up? I'm not telling you to be reckless. I'm not telling you to ignore your intuition or bypass your pain. I'm telling you to examine whether your avoidance is protecting you or betraying you. Whether you're drawing boundaries or building walls. Whether you're healing or hiding. Because here's what happens when you keep avoiding. The world shrinks. Your confidence erodes. The fear grows. And one day you wake up and realize you're not living, you're just existing. You're not free, you're just careful. You're not safe, you're just isolated. And the thing you were so afraid of facing has taken up residence in your chest anyway. It's there in every decision you don't make, every risk you don't take, every moment you choose comfort over growth. Avoidance doesn't eliminate the pain. It just spreads it out over your entire life like poison in the water. But there's hope. Real, tangible, evidence-based hope. Your brain is plastic. Neuroplasticity means you can rewire the fear responses. You can create new associations. You can teach your nervous system that triggers don't equal threats. But only if you stop avoiding them. Only if you give your brain the chance to learn something new. And yes, it's hard. Yes, it's terrifying. Yes, you'll want to quit 1,000 times. But the alternative is spending the rest of your life in a cage you built to protect yourself from something that already happened. Something that's over. Something that doesn't get to keep happening unless you let it. Sarah's story doesn't end with her driving off into the sunset, completely healed, never afraid again. That's not how trauma works. That's not how life works. Her story ends with her driving home from that wedding, windows down, music playing, still a little anxious but mostly just alive. Present. Free. She passes the exit where the accident happened and she doesn't avoid it. She doesn't take the long way around. She drives past it and she acknowledges it. That happened. That was real. That changed me. But it doesn't own me anymore. And that's the difference. That's the whole point. That's everything. The triggers don't disappear. The memories don't fade completely. The fear doesn't evaporate. But you change your relationship to all of it. You stop giving it veto power over your life. You stop believing that feeling afraid means you're in danger. You stop confusing avoidance with self-care. And slowly, choice by choice, exposure by exposure, you take back your life. Not the life you had before. You can't go back there. The life you build from here. The one where trauma is part of your story but not the narrator. Where you're the author, not the victim. Where you decide what you're capable of, not your fear. If this message resonated with you, if you see yourself in Sarah's story, do me a favor. Subscribe to this channel. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. And then, tomorrow, do one thing you've been avoiding. Not the biggest thing. Not the scariest thing. Just one small thing. Watch the video. Sit in the car. Send the text. Have the conversation. Take one tiny step toward the trigger you've been running from. Not because you have to. Not because you're weak if you don't. But because you deserve to know what's on the other side. You deserve to find out that you're stronger than your fear. That you can handle more than you think. That the cage has always been unlocked. Avoidance tells you it's keeping you safe. But really it's keeping you small. It's keeping you stuck. It's keeping you in the past while convincing you you're protecting your future. The truth is simpler and harder. The only way to leave the past behind is to stop running from it. To turn around and face it and walk straight through it until you come out the other side, exhausted and scared and alive and free. That's what Sarah did. That's what's possible for you. Not someday. Not when you're ready. No. Today. One small, terrified, courageous step at a time. The life you want is waiting. But it's on the other side of everything you've been avoiding. And the only person who can walk through that door is you. So what are you going to do? Keep running? Or finally stop and turn around and face the thing that's been chasing you? Because here's the secret Sarah learned. When you stop running and turn to face your fear, you realize something incredible. It's not chasing you anymore. It never was. You were always running from yourself. And the moment you stop, the moment you stand still and breathe and say, I'm here, I'm okay, I survived, everything changes. The past becomes the past. The trigger becomes just a reminder. And you become, finally, free. What are you avoiding? Comment below. Let's face it together. And if you made it to the end of this video, you're stronger than you think. Now go prove it.